Edie?
Hi, Dad.
I told her she could wait up for you. She wanted to show you her dress.
My card, Magnolia Ball, was filled the first night I wore this gown. I save it now for the important times. Maybe I'll wear it to my wedding.
Aye, Edie. Tonight was your play, and I missed it.
How do I look?
You look dazzling. I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry I missed you.
What you're doing is much more important than a silly old school play. Even if your daughter was rather spectacular. Night.
Good night.
Good night, honey.
Night.
Why didn't you remind me?
I did.
Hello, Bernie.
Hi.
How do you think you did in your SATs?
Well, I don't know. Hard to tell.
I'm sure you did fine. Did you see Edie's play?
Sure. She was the best one in it. Well, good night.
Bernie, if I owe you an apology...
Oh, it's no problem.
No, if I do, I apologize.
It's no big deal.
Bernie, what's wrong?
Nothing. I'm just tired. Good night, Mom.
Good night.
Sure, that's all it is.
Yeah, that's it.
You seem so angry these days.
Me? I didn't know I had the right to be angry.
Would you explain that, please?
Well, I haven't suffered enough, have I? I mean, what have I got to be angry about?
Who said this? Have I said this?
Anytime anybody says anything in this house, like, I don't know, like I'm hungry. You say, you should never know what real hunger is. Like we can't even say we're hungry if we're not starving to death or something.
I'm sorry. From now on, if you're hungry, you say so, and I'll keep my mouth shut.
See? How I feel is some kind of joke to you. Like it doesn't really matter.
Of course it matters. What I'm trying to do is find out...
And those talks you give? Did you know kids laugh at me? Because my father goes around crying about something that happened to him before any of us were even born? A lot of people have problems, but they don't all go around advertising them.
Bernie, I didn't know about any of this.
Sure, because we've always been afraid to hurt you. Because you've been hurt enough already. Anyhow, it seems like all you've ever really cared about is your first family. Your European family.
That's not true.
And how are we supposed to compete with them? We're alive and they're dead.
Mr. Mermelstein, you have a museum at your place of work, don't you?
Yes, that's correct.
Could you describe it to us, please?
It's an exhibit of the Holocaust. I have artifacts, mementos from the camps and such.
Concentration camps.
Yes, correct.
And at various times, you have spoken to groups of people on the subject of the Holocaust, is that correct?
Yes. To schools, civic groups, whoever will listen.
Well, this museum and these speeches that you give, what's that all about? Why do you do that? Mr. Mermelstein, why do you choose to make speeches about something that happened almost 40 years ago? Why do you continue to do that?
so that people will never forget what we've done to each other, what the human race is capable of, and because I made a promise.
Promise? What promise?
In Auschwitz, it was a promise that I made to my father. I remember his words before he died, before my brother died. He said to us, promise me this. Promise that if either of you lives through this inferno, you'll be a witness to the world about what went on here. And I made him that promise. My brother and I, we both promised. I'm the only one who lived, so I keep it. Your Honor, can you understand what it means to have your entire family murdered, and then years later to have these haters come and say, it never happened, never happened. You're a liar for telling what you saw. When I was 17 years old, I had a family. I had a father, I had a mother. I had a brother, 2 sisters. We were all taken together in a boxcar with hundreds of other people to Auschwitz-Birkenau. On the day after we arrived, my mother and my sisters were put into the gas chambers there, and they were gassed to death. And my father and my brother died in slave labor in the coal mines. I went to Auschwitz with a family. And a year later, when the camp was liberated, my family was gone. I was alone. And this is something that I will tell for as long as I live. They're not going to shut me up. They won't shut me up, these people. They will never silence me. I'll keep the promise that I made to my father.
Your Honor, I have no more questions.
Mr. Mermelstein, you may step down.
Under Evidence Code Section 452H, this court, responding to the overwhelming amount of documentary evidence, testimony of witnesses, victims, even guards at the concentration camps, the scholarship of historians of unquestioned authority, as well as the eyewitness evidence provided by Mr. Mermelstein here today, this court does take judicial notice of the fact that Jews were gassed to death at Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland, and that the Holocaust is not reasonably subject to dispute, and it is capable of immediate and accurate determination by resort to sources of reasonably indisputable accuracy. It is simply a fact.